Hello, you beautiful people. Happy morning to you. This is Michael Botts, and I show up here every morning at 9 a.m. the same reason you show up here every morning at 9 a.m. Because you know there is something more. In your deep down, you know this is not it. That there's something more. And what happened was you were born in I am enough. You got caught in the riptide of life and got sucked out into the ocean of am I enough. And out there in the ocean of am I enough, you started to float and try to stay above the surface. But then finally you started to drown and you started to suck in doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs. Good morning, Jeff. I'm glad you're here. And with that, that's how you've been living your life, out of doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs. And the whole purpose of this show is to pull you back up on the beach of I am enough, start resuscitating you, and you spew out doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs, and you start to walk down the path of success in I am enough. That's the whole reason we're here. Good morning, Kate. Glad you're here. Good morning, Mark. Thanks for having me on your show yesterday. I'm glad you're here, Mark. Thank you. Mark is a principal. Let's give him a hand. One of the hardest jobs on the planet. Thankless jobs. Thank you, Mark. All right. One of the first things I do every morning is I start with gratitude. So we start this show with gratitude. So my first grateful is that I have healthy, pain-free teeth. Oh, man. I have a friend that's really struggling with his teeth right now. And, I mean, it makes everything harder. Eating, thinking, doing business, going to work, driving. If there's pain here, oh, I'm so grateful for pain-free, healthy teeth. And I am enough. I'm grateful that Mark let me be on his show yesterday. I thought it was really fantastic. I felt like I served that community, and I'm grateful that he trusted me. And I am enough. I'm grateful that I have a nice cup of coffee this morning. I actually don't like coffee. I like creamer with a little coffee flavoring and a little sweet to it. And I am enough. After we do our gratefuls on this show, every time we take some breaths. Today we're going to take 5 deep breaths. And we're actually going to talk about that afterwards, about my mentality of the 5 deep breaths. Good morning, Hamed. Good morning, Alberto. I'm glad you guys are here. Alberto, this might be your first time. So let's take this first breath. Breathe in your nose. Just exhale out your mouth. Good morning, Robert. All right, this time when you breathe in, I want you to feel the cool air hit the back of your throat and go down into the infinity of you. Past what your physical body is, but the infinity of you. All right? So breathe in. Exhale. Good morning, Jose. Good morning. Foo-foo coffee. Mark doesn't like coffee, I think. Hey, the reason we do these breaths is because it creates space. I've been thinking about this a lot. When we show up here, we're tight, and we've got our agenda, and we got things we want to do, and it makes it tight, and you almost can't see. I can't see you because of there's no space. But when we start to breathe, I can see you, and it creates space. And in that space, we can make more quality decisions. So as you breathe in this time, let that air hit your back of your throat and go down into you and feel the space, the infinity of you. Do you see what I'm saying? So you ready? Feel that space. Now exhale, doubt. Breathe in. Just let that space happen. Exhale. One more. Breathe in confidence. Exhale, doubt. Ah, that feels good. Do you feel the space? For me, it comes off the back of my neck, off my shoulders, and just falls off of me like stones. And I just feel space. And in that space, I'm able to accomplish my goals for the day. In that space, I can see the solution to the problems. So I highly recommend it. I know people that come here just for the breaths, and then they got to get off to work on weekdays. And I love it. I love it. Today, we're talking about assumptions or assuming something. Most of you have probably heard the saying, if you assume something, you're making an ass out of you and me. That spells assume. And it's really a safe place to assume something. My sister is a weightlifter, and she works out. She does Zumba. I mean, she's very successful at it. Good morning, Kenya. And yesterday she told me, she said, Michael, I hit a personal record on the deadlift. I did 135 pounds. And I was like, wow, that's fantastic. And she had a video, and she sent me the video. Now, when I think of someone doing a personal record, I think of them just doing it one time. Like it's their max, and they stand up and they do it one time. Now, her personal record was doing it 6 times. But I want to show you something in her example that we're doing in our businesses, okay? We're doing in our lives. Is she started with the bar that day, and then she went to 10 pounds, and then she went to 20 pounds on the bar, and then 30 pounds on the bar, and then a 45 pound on each side of the bar, on each end of the bar. And she started assuming she couldn't do that. See, when you assume, it's very safe, there's no risk, it's very comfortable to assume that. In our businesses, are we assuming a certain person wouldn't be interested in our business or our customer, our product or our service, so we don't talk to them? You know, if Mark Calvin has a home-based business, and he sells a product that helps your health and well-being. Now, is he assuming the guy that runs the marathon wouldn't want that product? Is he assuming everybody that wants that product would be someone overweight? And so if he had that assumption, I'm not saying you do, Mark, I'm just using you as an example here. If he had that assumption, he wouldn't talk to those people that are already fit, already have their health and well-being. In our minds, we see it that way. In my business, you know, I know some very successful people. Am I assuming they wouldn't want a business coach because they are already successful? And do you see how assuming makes me powerless? It gives me no power. And really, we're assuming we can't do something. If you think about it, we assume, well, I can't get my chair full every day, all day, because some people aren't going to come. Yeah, some people will come, but you don't need everyone. And then once you have someone in your chair, like if you're a hairdresser, and you're assuming they won't want the shampoo, or they won't want the deep conditioning, or they won't want the extra added value that you can offer them. So you're assuming that, so you don't offer it, and that makes you powerless. So we really need to overcome the option of assuming. I've got some notes here. I want to look at that. You assume the marketplace doesn't want or need what you have to offer. I was thinking about this. In my lifetime, since I've been born, people did business without any cell phone at all. So there was a place where there were no cell phones. I know it's hard for us to get our brains around that. And look at us now. We use our cell phone. I use my cell phone almost completely. I barely get on the computer just to do my book. Everything else I do on my cell phone. So thank God they didn't assume, well, nobody has a cell phone, so they wouldn't need them. That would have been a powerless statement. So really be aware of what you're assuming. You used to assume I can't parallel park. That's out of my brain quadrant. And now you could parallel park a freaking bus because you had the assumption you didn't go for it. But when you went for it, you learned, you grew, and you're able to do it now. So assuming things is making us powerless. You assume you can't because no one else has ever done it. I mean, that's a powerless statement. You assume you can't watch this show. I've heard people say, I can't watch this show because, I start work at 9 o'clock. You can watch this show at 10 o'clock at night. You just have to go back and get in the archives. I assume I don't have time. I assume I don't have the money. I assume I can't. These are all limiting beliefs. And they're absolutely not true because there is abundance. When you assume that you can't or you don't have, you create a mentality of lack. Where the absolute truth is you do have, you can, and you must. Thank you for the thumbs up, Jose. I appreciate that. So there's one thing on here I wanted to say. Assume all out, and I am enough. Assume is all out of am I enough? That's when you assume a limitation. So let's flip it. Since we have the power of assume, let's flip it. Let's assume everybody wants our product. Now don't let that hurt your feelings when someone doesn't, but let's assume everybody needs my coaching. Let's assume everybody wants to get their haircut in your chair. Let's assume everyone wants to buy your health and well-being product. Since we have the power of assume, let's assume the powerful and the limitless as opposed to assuming the limited and the powerless. You see how that works? So since we are going to have assume, it's a must versus should. Yeah, there are must. Mark Calvin saying there are must in our life. I must love my kids. No matter what, I'm going to love my kids. No matter what, I have that must in my life. So why can't I make it a must that everyone wants to have me as a coach? And I need to speak to everyone in a powerful, assuming they want me as a coach attitude. Now, some people are still going to say no, but when I assume that they do, I have an opportunity to serve them. And the last thing is, don't assume just because it hasn't worked in the past. If you've tried to stop smoking, if you've tried to lose weight, if you've tried to get up and exercise and it hasn't worked, be careful not to get into the assume that you can't. All that's happened is you haven't done it yet. All that's happened is you've built a toolbox of what hasn't worked, but you still can do it. You guys hear that buzzing? Something buzzing. One of my kids' phones. I guess I didn't do that. I hope that doesn't disturb you. Disturbed me a little bit. So don't assume you can't because it hasn't worked out in the past. Don't assume that you can't because you've failed 100 times. Don't assume you can't because no one in your family has ever done it. Let's assume I can because I'm amazing. Let's assume that I can because I've got the power inside of me to do it. Let's assume that I can because I am limitless, because I am enough. I love you, I care about you, and I want you to succeed. I am committed to your success. If you're struggling with this assume where you're making an ass out of you and me in your business, I would love to serve you. I offer a free strategy session to anyone for their first session with me, and we can do it over the phone. Just reach out to me, 703-455-5244, or you can find me on the Michael Botts Experience, that's .com, or on YouTube. I love you. I care about you, and I really want you to be aware of what you're assuming today. It's just become aware of it and be like, oh, I assume that I need sugar in my coffee. I assume that my kids are going to give me a hard time. I assume that this person that's so successful wouldn't be interested in my business. Let's get away from that and assume the powerful. I love you. I care about you, and I want you to succeed.